everybody. Welcome to Facebook Live as we join you. Doug Dunbar, Kaylee O'Kelly, and we have lawyer Pete Schulte with us. Pete, thank you for being with us tonight. The picture that you see on your screen, we believe to be the white pickup truck that is the suspect vehicle that was involved in the shooting of two Dallas police officers earlier today at that Home Depot off Central Expressway, and the chase of this truck just unfolding here in the last 10 or 15 minutes.
And the man that Doug is talking about here, this is believed to be Armando Juarez, and he is that person of interest in that attempted capital murder of two police officers, which happened today at the Home Depot, which is right there near 75 and Forest Lane.
Yeah, now we saw pictures earlier of the truck, and it had a distinctive work rack on the back. Pete, we don't see that here. Don't know how it became removed. Maybe if this is in fact Juarez, maybe he removed it to try and reduce the visibility of his vehicle. But talk to us about the protocol of the chase that's going on. I see a floodlight from up top. I think that's going to tell me right away, right there, that Air One from DPD is following the vehicle as well.
Absolutely. Air One's going to be the main eye contact because Dallas police do have a very limited chase policy. So, especially on a night like tonight, where the DPD family is struggling with the shooting of two officers, this really had to have been the suspect for the chase to be able to continue. So when we heard about it, I said, I bet we're going to see a white pickup truck. And to go back, if this individual is thinking, he would try to get his truck to blend in, and by removing the work bars in the back, that's one way to do it. So if it is him, but I would think that the DPD command staff tonight, if they said, if anybody comes across anybody that's going to run from us tonight that looks or could be the suspect, you chase them until the wheels fall off.
Right. And that would appear to be the situation that we're going to be in for a little bit now. We're heading into a field off the main road, obviously, heading into grass. And Pete, you had mentioned earlier, right before we went on the air here on Facebook Live, that oftentimes when suspects become desperate like this, they tend to go back to areas that they know, I guess streets they know. Is that fair?
That he does know that area.
Neighborhoods that he knows. I mean, he knows that he went over some grassy areas. He went through a gate there. He's heading back towards what looks like, you know, a neighborhood. Now he's going on the sidewalk, going through grass.
So this is a residential neighborhood.
It's a residential neighborhood. And again, this is a situation where if this was not the suspect tonight, the command staff of Dallas Police would be terminating.
What doesn't make sense is that this is a street. He doesn't need to be up there on the sidewalk.
Well,
he doesn't need to be leading them on a chase either. But how do you make sense of something like this? Obviously an erratic person.
This individual, from what I know, from what I followed today, this individual somewhat feels like his life is over, for whatever reason. None of his legal troubles that we've discovered that he was dealing with today should justify what he's doing.
So rewinding to as we watch the chase unfold here in Dallas, and I believe we're south of Dallas now. If anybody in the back can get us an update on location from the helicopter crew, please let me know, because we're 10 minutes since we've been in downtown Dallas near McKinney, because he went north and then went south on McKinney. But Pete, this was apparently the serving of a warrant that was happening when the DPD officers encountered him at a Home Depot. Initially, the thought was it was a phone call about a theft at the Home Depot. That turned out not to be the case. These officers were actually going to serve him a warrant that in your world, in the legal world, is relatively minor, as you had described.
Right. I'll tell you, basically, what probably happened is these two guys are working off, or this, maybe just one male officer was working off duty, gets a call from the manager, maybe the civilian that got shot, we don't know, we're purely speculating. Say, hey, this guy, we think he might be up to something, can you go make contact with him?
Right.
So if I'd work an off-duty job as a former police officer, I'd walk up to the gentleman and say, sir, can I see your ID? They hand me the ID, I'd run them through the dispatch, and they probably came back and said he's got a state jail felony theft warrant out of Dallas County. So at that point, the officer called for a backup unit, and that's what happened. Are we stopping
here? Look here. It looks like we've got a lot of units. They're stopping.
Everything's come to a stop, and two things. It's dark outside, really tough for visibility with the helicopter. Say it again.
We're working on a cross street.
Okay, and they're
near Dorothy, working on a cross street.
They're rushing him right now, so he looks like he's on foot.
Well, yeah, so that was my next question for you. So presuming he has obviously stopped the vehicle, so here we go. We see officers on foot, we see officers running, and many times, though, we can see this end up in a standoff as well, because they're going to rush up, and then this guy is armed and dangerous.
And desperate.
Yeah,
yes.
Desperate.
I am praying right now that this ends peacefully as we're watching it live here. It's all up to the suspect. I mean, if he wants to make sure that this ends peacefully, it's up to him.
Look at all these units here.
Oh, I know.
And
This has to be the suspect.
Pete, if they're approaching the suspect and the suspect vehicle,
Looks like they got somebody in custody. Yep.
Let's see.
it is so hard to see at night. Thank you once again for joining us here on Facebook Live. Dallas police have been chasing who we believe to be a suspect in the shooting of two
They've got
officers.
somebody in custody.
And I see somebody, they had him over the front of the car for just a moment.
Yep. I think they're trying to throw him in the rear of the squad car right now, which is the smart thing to do.
Yeah, we're obscured with the trees and the darkness as well, so the combination of the two make it really tough to see inside. Chopper's going to swing around here. Multiple officers, and on a night like tonight, as we mentioned earlier, Pete, you know, this brings us the chilling memories of 7/7 back in 2016 when you hear, you know, shots fired and DPD officers involved, obviously. But a massive response like this completely expected with this guy today?
Absolutely. I mean, again, if what had happened today had not happened, we would not be seeing a response like this. I mean, look at that. I mean, there's 2 or 3 dozen officers there. That is remarkable. But you know what? God bless them.
Yes.
You know, that they're out here, they're going to get this suspect off the street. I don't have any problem with this whatsoever.
No.
There's a lot of restraint. There's a lot of officers that, you know, would have wanted the opportunity to have a little bit. I'm not saying that would ever happen, but this showed incredible restraint, knowing that 2 of their officers are in the hospital right now fighting for their life.
Officers are human beings as well.
Right.
And we are lucky to have them out there. And for folks who don't know, Pete Schulte here is also a police officer, so he brings unique insight and perspective to our conversation tonight. And we are grateful that you're here to help lend that perspective, Pete.
Well, I just want people to realize that, you know, we don't know as officers walking into a situation. I mean, I'm sure those officers working in the off-duty job at the Home Depot today didn't expect that they would, you know, embark on somebody with a gun that wanted to hurt them. I mean, again, this was a low-level warrant. I mean, this individual, based on the court paperwork, was going to get 2 years deferred probation on stealing a car from somebody. We don't know who he was. I know the name. I don't know how they're related to the suspect. But after 6 months, a year, he probably would have been released from that probation. The cases would have been dismissed. No big deal.
Right.
You know, but for some reason, he didn't show up to court back in February, and Judge Collins, who's a phenomenal judge in Dallas, said, you know what, you have such a great deal on these 2 cases, you didn't show up to court, I'm raising your bond to $10,000, and it's cash. So you can't use a bonding company, you got to pay $10,000 cash. You'll get that money back, but you ain't getting out until you bring the money. And so that's what his mindset was if I go to jail today, I'm not getting out. Not knowing that offer that he had of 2 years deferred probation was still on the wow.
Look at the scope of this, okay?
This is incredible.
Dorothy Lane is what we were told. We're still working to get you across street, but you can see the officers on a few streets here in this general vicinity. And this is a residential area, too. I can't even imagine what it's like to be in one of those homes right now.
Yeah, I'm thinking about those people who are in their homes, and they have, you know, only for maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes, heard sirens in their area. Because when this guy finally dove down into this area, again, the chilling moment for us was watching him drive on sidewalks in a residential neighborhood. And you think about anybody who may have just been out for an evening walk, walking the dog, or, you know, anything like that at this time of night. And thank God nobody else was hit to our knowledge, and nobody else was hurt with somebody who was clearly completely out of control in that vehicle as they were chasing.
And I was trying to count units just to see what the scope of this response is. Pete, you've been in this business for a long time. Have you ever seen a scope of this magnitude when it comes to this many officers responding?
Very rare.
Gives you an idea of how dangerous this person
I'd say
was.
July 7th.
Right, yes.
July 7th,
Yes.
and I'll tell you, when I was a McKinney officer back in the early 2000s.
And Pete, let me interrupt you.
1 second.
They just shared with us confirmation, the suspect who they were looking for, Armando Juarez, the 29-year-old, is in custody. So that was him. We have confirmation now from DPD. Continue your thought.
No doubt. I mean, like we were talking about earlier, there's no way that this chase wouldn't be able to continue if it hadn't been him. I mean, just what we saw right on the sidewalks and so forth. But again, I'm sure that, you know, I have a lot of respect for Chief Hall. I'm very impressed with her, and I know I can just tell you, just listening, you know, what she would be saying is you chase them until the wheels come off. That's exactly what they did. And again, I don't see any indication anybody else was hurt, thank goodness.
Yeah.
You know, but this is what happens. I mean, you don't get to attack our police and get to run from us and get away.
Right. And meanwhile, I'd be remiss if we didn't visit with what is happening probably not too far away over at Texas Presbyterian Hospital. Last update we had from Chief Renee Hall was that family members had gathered of the two officers, but they were still also waiting on even more family members to come there. And I just want to caution all of you out there, despite what you may or may not have read via social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook tonight, nothing is official when it comes to conditions of first responders, officers, firefighters, whoever they are, until it comes from the department, until it comes from their governing agency. And I caution you to wait until we hear from the Dallas Police Department and Chief Renee Hall on the conditions and or fates of any of the officers that were involved today. It's a bit aggravating that a lot of stuff gets thrown out there, because my first thought goes to the family members of those people,
right,
of those officers, and they may not have gotten to the hospital yet, and they may not have gotten definitive word about a condition or anything. And for any kind of family member to see something beyond the scope of hearing it from the department and their leaders is just something that shouldn't be that way. It really just shouldn't. So.
Well, and a lot of people like to speculate. A lot of the, media outlets, I'm saying us, but there's a lot of media outlets like to speculate because we haven't heard certain things, we don't know certain things, but we don't. And that's the whole point, is what you're saying is we have no idea what's going on at the hospital.
Well, and when you don't know, you don't report.
Right.
And you don't share. Now,
we would all love to know.
Right.
But it's not our place.
Listen, it's one thing if you're sourcing information on something, but when you're sourcing information and you're talking about lives and you're talking about notification of family members in critical situations, that is a line that should not be crossed, and I'll leave it at that. But I will simply say that the last update we had from Chief Renee Hall was that the two officers were in critical condition. One, we understand, shot in the back of the head, according to our J.D. Miles earlier today. One shot in the face. Both events sound absolutely horrific. We pray for the recovery and the survival of both. But once again, that is all we know as of the 7:30-ish, I think.
It was around that time, 7:30, 7:40. There's also a civilian to think about here as well.
Yes.
Who was hit in all of this unknown condition. And we were waiting to hear on that part of this story as well.
And that person was an employee of Home Depot, and they were, Pete, remind me, or Kaylee, they were a...
loss prevention?
Loss prevention.
Right.
Yeah, the word officer was in my head.
Yeah,
so
no.
a loss prevention officer, which is not a law enforcement job. It's just the job within Home Depot, though, and that person obviously somehow, some way got entangled in what went down in there. So the good news, thank you all for watching on Facebook. The good news we can report as we sit here now at 16 minutes after 9 o'clock is that DPD confirms the suspect in the shooting of two officers today and a civilian is now firmly in custody, and we can thank God and thank goodness and thank whoever you want that this thing is finally over as far as the search for this guy who has been armed and very dangerous in our city for the last few hours.
We are working to get you more information, hoping that there are no other injuries to report to you on CBS 11 News at 10 o'clock. We do appreciate you joining us, though, for the apprehension of this man who, again, was wanted in the shooting of two police officers and a civilian at Home Depot.
Thanks for watching Facebook Live. We'll see you at the top of the 10 o'clock hour.